some analysis on all of this with Alexis Akwagyiram. He's the managing editor of the Semafor Africa news site and joins us from London. Alexis, welcome to this news hour. It's very clear there from our correspondents that we're speaking to that France is concerned, of course, about the coup in Niger, but also its footing in Africa. France, of course, wants Niger to return to democratic rule, as well as many other Western nations, ECOWAS and the AU, all calling for that. Do you think that's still a possibility, though, that this country could still be run by President Mohamed Bazoum?
It's a possibility, but with every passing day, it becomes more and more distant. I think the key here is what happens with ECOWAS and whether, well, it's a matter of who blinks first, ultimately, because ECOWAS have been very strong in denouncing this and setting a very clear deadline. And by threatening the use of force and giving the deadline of Sunday, they've basically said, look, we can hasten this and make it happen. So in answer to your question, this is going to work in terms of a return to the democratically elected president only if those who've taken over blink first. And at the moment, that's not seeming to be the case because there's the support of Mali and Burkina Faso. But we'll see. I mean, ultimately, I personally don't think there's that much of a chance of this actually going to an actual conflict. So we'll see what happens.
Well, it doesn't seem that the junta is blinking at all at this stage. And of course, defense ministers from ECOWAS countries are meeting today until Friday. That's taking place in Abuja right now. And as you were saying, they've given Niger until the 6th of August to hand back power or face military intervention. But is this type of ultimatum really the right way to go? They've also leveled sanctions against Niger. But as we have seen in other countries that have had coups in West Africa, like Mali, those sanctions are eventually lifted.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I think the difficulty that ECOWAS has is that they've tried a softly approach in the past and it hasn't worked. There have been coups and the juntas that have taken over have just become even more deeply entrenched. And so they're trying something new. They're trying to say, look, enough is enough. And I think a lot of this comes from Bola Tinubu, the newly elected president of Nigeria, who has now taken chairmanship of ECOWAS as of early July. And he's effectively saying, look, we need to be strong and we need to be effective. So I think it's a bold approach, but I think it may well work. It may well work because they have to try something.
Yeah, they really do have to try something because many people in Niger are saying right now they don't want any Western involvement. They certainly don't want any French involvement. We've also seen many people waving the Russian flag, chanting pro-Russian slogans. We know that the Wagner Group is very active in Mali, working with the junta there. But in this case, is Moscow a better partner than Paris?
I think it depends who you're speaking to, but I mean, I suppose from the military junta's perspective, those who've taken over in Niger, they would definitely say that Moscow would be a better partner. The reason being that they have seen in Mali that Wagner forces have gone in there and have been very aggressive in terms of their fight against the Islamist insurgents, because that is the key. Ultimately, all of this instability is down to Islamist insurgents operating in the Sahel region. And so from the military junta's perspective in Niger, what they want is an aggressive fighting force. And Wagner very successfully used the Central African Republic to showcase what they can do. Now, the counter argument is that leads to horrific abuses of human rights. There have been countless cases of alleged human rights violations that we've seen involving Wagner troops in Central African Republic and also in Mali. So, but in terms of what they're looking for, that's what they'll want. Now, the reason why Mali, for example, pushed out the French and then pushed out MINUSMA, the UN's force, is because particularly with the UN, they were peacekeepers. So their argument was they were there to create order, protect people, and also facilitate the movement of aid and logistics, but they weren't there to be aggressive and to actually actively fight the insurgents. And that is what people are looking for. So that's what the military takeover in Niger is about, and that's what those soldiers who've taken over, that's what they're looking for from a partner. So they'll feel that they can get that from Russia.
And those UN peacekeepers also accused of abuses in that country as well. Thank you so much, Alexis Akwagyiram. Your analysis always appreciated.